When people hear the name Heath Ledger, most of them immediately think about one thing: the unforgettable Joker in The Dark Knight. That wild smile, the chilling laugh, the performance that shocked the world. But behind that performance was a real person. A son. A father. A young man who carried dreams much bigger than the small city where he grew up. In January 2008, the world woke up to heartbreaking news. Heath Ledger had been found dead in his apartment in New York City. He was only 28 years old. Fans couldn't believe it. Hollywood couldn't believe it. His family couldn't believe it. Almost immediately, questions started spreading everywhere. What really happened? Was it the pressure of fame? Did the Joker role push him too far? Was he struggling in ways people didn't see? Rumors grew for years. Some stories were exaggerated. Others were simply wrong. But through all of it, the people closest to Heath mostly stayed quiet. Especially his mother. Sally Ledger Bell rarely spoke publicly about her son's private life. She protected his memory and his daughter. For nearly 2 decades, she avoided interviews that tried to dig into the painful details. But time has passed. Now, after 18 years, she has finally opened up about the son she knew better than anyone else. And what she revealed surprised many people. She spoke about the real Heath, the funny, energetic kid she raised in Australia, the teenager who dreamed of acting long before Hollywood knew his name, the young man who worked harder than anyone expected. She also addressed the painful rumors that followed his death. According to her, the public image people created after his passing was not the whole truth. To understand what she meant, we have to go back to the very beginning. Long before the bright lights of Hollywood. Long before the fame. Long before the Joker. Back to a boy growing up in Perth. Heath Ledger was born on April 4, 1979, in Perth. It was a quiet city compared to the big entertainment capitals of the world. No Hollywood studios. No red carpets. Just regular neighborhoods, schools, and families trying to build their lives. His mother, Sally Ledger Bell, worked as a French teacher. His father, Kim Ledger, was an engineer and loved racing cars. From the beginning, Heath was known as a curious and energetic kid. His mom would later say he had a personality that filled every room. He wasn't shy. He loved making people laugh. He liked being around friends, playing games, and trying new things. One of his favorite hobbies growing up was chess. In fact, Heath became very good at it. He even won a junior chess championship at school. But chess wasn't the only thing that caught his attention. Sports were also a big part of his childhood. He played hockey and enjoyed physical activity. His parents encouraged him to stay active and explore his interests. Still, there was another side to Heath that stood out: creativity. Even as a young boy, he liked performing. At school, he joined small plays and theater activities. Teachers quickly noticed that he had something special. He didn't seem nervous on stage like many kids did. He actually enjoyed it. When the spotlight hit him, he felt comfortable. At home, Heath would sometimes imitate characters from movies or television shows. He liked experimenting with voices and personalities. Sometimes it made his family laugh. Sometimes it surprised them. But nobody thought much about it at first. To them, he was just a playful kid with a big imagination. His mother would later say that Heath had a natural curiosity about people. He liked observing how others talked, moved, and behaved. Without realizing it, he was already developing the instincts that would later make him a powerful actor. School life for Heath was fairly normal. He attended Guildford Grammar School, where he balanced sports, academics, and drama. Friends described him as friendly and easy to get along with. He wasn't the quiet type who stayed in the background. He liked being involved. But something started becoming clear as he got older. Acting wasn't just a fun hobby anymore. It was turning into a serious passion. By his teenage years, Heath was spending more time with theater groups and drama classes. He loved the challenge of becoming different characters. Sometimes he would study actors in movies and try to understand how they created such believable performances. He wasn't just watching films for entertainment. He was studying them. The idea of becoming an actor slowly started to grow stronger in his mind. For a boy living in Perth, that dream might have seemed unrealistic. Australia had talented actors, but the biggest opportunities were usually far away in places like Los Angeles or London. Still, Heath didn't seem afraid of big dreams. His mother later said that even when he was young, he had a quiet confidence about the future. Not arrogance, just belief. He believed he could do something meaningful with his life. And acting felt like the path he wanted to follow. But life at home was about to change in a way that would shape him deeply. When Heath was still young, his family went through a painful change. His parents, Sally Ledger Bell and Kim Ledger, decided to separate. Divorce can be difficult for any child. For Heath, it happened during a time when he was still trying to understand the world around him. Suddenly, the family structure he had always known was different. He began splitting time between his mother and father. Moving between homes became part of his routine. Friends later said that this period made him grow up faster than many kids his age. Even though both parents loved him deeply, the separation created emotional challenges. Heath sometimes felt caught between two worlds. His mother remained a strong presence in his life. She encouraged his creativity and supported his interests in acting and the arts. She also made sure he stayed grounded. According to her later interviews, Heath never lost his sense of humor during those years. Even when life felt confusing, he still joked around and tried to make people smile. But inside, the experience affected him. Children often respond to family changes in different ways. Some become quiet. Others throw themselves into activities. For Heath, acting slowly became a place where he could express emotions that were hard to explain. On stage, he could become someone else for a while. A hero, a villain, a dreamer. The stage gave him freedom. As he entered his teenage years, Heath became more independent. He started thinking seriously about what he wanted from life. Many of his friends were focused on typical teenage plans: school, sports, maybe local jobs. Heath was thinking bigger. He wanted to act professionally. That idea didn't come from fame or money. According to his mother, Heath loved storytelling. He loved characters and emotions. Movies fascinated him. He admired actors who completely transformed themselves for roles. That ability to disappear into a character impressed him. Eventually, Heath made a decision that surprised some people around him. He wasn't going to wait years to try acting seriously. He wanted to start as soon as possible. And that decision would soon push him to leave his hometown behind and chase an uncertain future in the Australian entertainment industry. The quiet boy from Perth was about to take his first real step toward Hollywood. By the time Heath Ledger turned 17, one thing was already clear to everyone around him. He didn't want a normal life. Not because he disliked school or his hometown in Perth, but because his dreams felt bigger than what was around him. Acting had stopped being a hobby. It had become the thing he thought about every day. So in the mid-1990s, Heath made a bold decision. He left Perth. At just 17 years old, he packed up and moved to Sydney, one of the biggest entertainment centers in the country. It wasn't Hollywood, but it was where many Australian actors started their careers. The move wasn't easy. He didn't have major connections in the industry. He didn't have a big safety net waiting for him. What he had was determination and a belief that if he kept trying, someone would eventually give him a chance. Life in Sydney was very different from the quiet environment he grew up in. The city was louder, faster, and full of competition. Hundreds of young actors were chasing the same dream. Every audition meant standing in long lines, waiting for a few minutes in front of casting directors who had seen dozens of people before you. Rejection became part of his daily life. Sometimes he would audition for a role and never hear back again. Other times he would get close but lose the part at the last moment. But he kept going. Friends from that time remember Heath as someone who didn't get discouraged easily. If an audition went badly, he would shrug it off and start preparing for the next one. His first real opportunities came through Australian television. He began landing small roles in local TV shows. They weren't huge parts, but they gave him valuable experience in front of the camera. One of the early shows he appeared in was Sweat, where he played a cyclist named Snowy Bowles. It wasn't a major breakthrough, but it introduced him to the professional acting world. After that, he continued working in several other television projects, slowly building a reputation as a young actor who took his work seriously. People on set noticed something interesting about Heath. Even though he was still very young, he behaved like someone who had been in the industry for years. He watched experienced actors closely. He asked questions. He studied how scenes were filmed and how performances were shaped. He wasn't just showing up for the paycheck. He wanted to learn everything. His next opportunity came with another television series, Home and Away, which had helped launch the careers of many Australian actors before him. The role wasn't huge, but it helped him gain more exposure. Casting agents began noticing his look and screen presence. He had the kind of face that worked well on camera. Confident but approachable, charming but natural. Soon, something bigger started to happen. Hollywood was beginning to look at him. By the late 1990s, Heath realized that if he wanted to take the next step, he would have to leave Australia again. This time, the destination was much farther away. The United States. Moving to America was a huge leap for Heath Ledger. Hollywood was a completely different world compared to the Australian television industry. The competition was even tougher, and the expectations were much higher. But Heath arrived with the same attitude he had in Sydney. Work hard. Take risks. Keep learning. Not long after arriving, he landed the role that would change his life. In 1999, he starred in the teen romantic comedy 10 Things I Hate About You. The film was a modern retelling of Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew, set in an American high school. Heath played Patrick Verona, the mysterious bad boy who slowly reveals a softer side. The movie became an instant favorite among young audiences. But what really stood out was Heath's performance. He had a natural charm on screen. He wasn't trying too hard to be cool. He just felt real. One scene in particular, where he sings on the school bleachers, quickly became one of the most memorable moments in the film. Almost overnight, Heath became one of Hollywood's newest rising stars. Teen magazines started putting his face on their covers. Fans began recognizing him in public. Casting directors started calling more often. For many young actors, this kind of attention would feel like the ultimate success. But Heath had mixed feelings about it. He appreciated the opportunity the film gave him, but he didn't want to be stuck playing the same type of role over and over again. Hollywood had already started labeling him the teen heartthrob. It meant romantic roles, charming smiles, and predictable characters. Heath wasn't interested in that. He wanted to prove that he could do much more. Instead of chasing easy popularity, he started looking for roles that challenged him. Characters with darker emotions, deeper stories, and complicated personalities. Some people in the industry thought this was risky. Young actors usually tried to protect their popularity. Heath seemed willing to risk it if it meant becoming a better performer. This decision would shape the next phase of his career. After the success of 10 Things I Hate About You, many studios wanted Heath Ledger to stay in the same lane. Romantic comedies, teen movies, safe roles. But Heath surprised people by choosing something different. He accepted a role in the historical war drama The Patriot, starring alongside Mel Gibson. In the movie, Heath played Gabriel Martin, the son of a Revolutionary War hero. The character had emotional depth, bravery, and vulnerability. For Heath, it was a chance to show audiences that he could handle serious drama. Working with Mel Gibson was also a huge learning experience. Gibson was already a major Hollywood star and director. Heath watched closely, paying attention to how experienced actors approached their craft. The film performed well and helped expand Heath's reputation. Soon after, he appeared in Monsters Ball, a powerful drama starring Halle Berry. The movie explored difficult themes and emotional pain. Heath's role wasn't huge, but it showed that he was willing to participate in serious, sometimes uncomfortable stories. Then came A Knight's Tale, where Heath played William Thatcher, a peasant who pretends to be a knight in medieval tournaments. The film mixed historical settings with modern music and humor. Heath carried the movie with confidence, showing both charisma and comedic timing. By this point, people in Hollywood started noticing something important. Heath Ledger wasn't just another good-looking actor trying to stay famous. He was building a career step by step. Directors who worked with him often said he prepared intensely for roles. He liked to dig deep into characters and understand their motivations. Sometimes that meant isolating himself for a while to focus on a performance. He wanted every role to feel authentic. Even early in his career, Heath was already developing the reputation of someone who took acting very seriously. But while his professional life was growing rapidly, his personal life was about to change in ways he didn't expect. Soon, He would meet someone who would bring a completely different kind of happiness into his life. By the early 2000s, Heath Ledger had already built a strong reputation in Hollywood. Directors respected his talent, and audiences were starting to see him as more than just a rising star. But something even more important was about to happen in his personal life. In 2004, Heath began working on the film Brokeback Mountain, directed by Ang Lee. The movie told the emotional story of two cowboys who fall in love in the American West. It was a risky project at the time. The subject matter was sensitive, and many actors had turned down roles in the film. Heath didn't hesitate. He took the role seriously and gave everything he had to the character, Ennis Del March. Quiet, guarded, and emotionally conflicted, Ennis was very different from many characters Heath had played before. While filming the movie, Heath grew close to his co-star Michelle Williams. Their connection happened naturally. They spent long hours on set together and quickly discovered they had a lot in common. Both were young actors who cared deeply about their work and preferred a quieter life away from the typical Hollywood party scene. Before long, their friendship turned into a relationship. The couple moved in together and began building a life in New York City. For Heath, the city offered something he appreciated: a little more privacy than Los Angeles. In October 2005, their lives changed forever. Their daughter, Matilda Ledger, was born. Becoming a father transformed Heath. Friends and family noticed it immediately. He talked about his daughter constantly. He loved spending time with her, playing music for her, carrying her around the apartment, and taking long walks with the family. According to his mother Sally Ledger Bell, Heath adored being a dad. He slowed down in some ways. Work was still important, but family came first. When he wasn't filming, he wanted to be home with Michelle and Matilda. For a while, life felt balanced. A successful career, a loving partner, and a young daughter who meant everything to him. But life in Hollywood can be unpredictable. As time passed, Heath and Michelle began facing the same pressures many couples in the entertainment industry experience: long work schedules, travel, and the stress that comes with fame. Eventually, their relationship began to change. By 2007, the couple had quietly separated. They remained respectful toward each other and focused on raising their daughter. But the breakup marked a difficult emotional period for Heath. Even though he still spent time with Matilda whenever possible, the separation was painful. Around the same time, he accepted the role that would change his life and his legacy forever. In 2007, Heath Ledger was offered the chance to play one of the most famous villains in comic book history, the Joker. The role was part of The Dark Knight, directed by Christopher Nolan. At first, some fans were skeptical. Many people only remembered Heath from romantic roles or historical films. They couldn't imagine him playing such a dark and chaotic character. But Heath saw it differently. He believed the Joker could be something completely new. Instead of playing the character like previous versions, he wanted to create a Joker who felt unpredictable, disturbing, and psychologically complex. To prepare, Heath isolated himself for weeks. He stayed in a small hotel room and worked on the character every day. He experimented with voices, laughs, and physical movements. He kept a private notebook where he wrote ideas and thoughts about the Joker's mind. That notebook later became known as the Joker Diary. According to people who saw it, the pages were filled with strange images, dark humor, and inspiration that helped him build the character. Heath wanted the Joker to feel real. Not just a comic book villain, but someone chaotic and dangerous. The preparation was intense. He practiced the Joker's voice repeatedly. He developed the character's nervous energy and unpredictable behavior. He studied how the Joker might think, how he might move, and how he might react in every situation. During filming, Heath fully committed to the role. Other actors on set said that when the cameras started rolling, he completely disappeared into the character. The Joker's strange laughter and unsettling personality felt almost too real. Christian Bale, who played Batman in the film, later said Heath's performance was incredible to watch. But the role also required long hours and intense emotional focus. At the same time, Heath had been struggling with something else: sleep. In interviews during that period, he mentioned having trouble sleeping. His mind often kept racing late into the night. To deal with the problem, he sometimes relied on prescription medications meant to help him rest. At the time, it seemed like something many actors experienced during stressful productions. But no one knew how serious things would soon become. By late 2007 and early 2008, Heath Ledger was spending much of his time in New York City. Filming for The Dark Knight had already finished, and the movie was in post-production. Heath was also working on another film called The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. On the surface, his career was stronger than ever. But behind the scenes, he was extremely tired. Friends later said Heath often talked about struggling with insomnia. Even when he tried to sleep, his mind wouldn't slow down. He sometimes took medications prescribed by doctors to help manage the problem. On January 22, 2008, tragedy struck. Heath was found unresponsive in his apartment in Manhattan. Emergency responders were called, but it was already too late. He was only 28 years old. The news spread across the world within hours. Fans, actors, and filmmakers were stunned. Many people couldn't believe someone so talented and so young was suddenly gone. An investigation later revealed that Heath had died from an accidental overdose involving several prescription medications. The combination of drugs had slowed his breathing until his body could no longer continue. Authorities ruled the death an accident. Still, the tragedy triggered years of speculation and rumors. Some people blamed the Joker role. Others believed stress or personal problems had pushed him too far. The truth was more complicated, and for a long time, Heath's family chose not to publicly argue with every story that appeared in the media. 4 years after the death of Heath Ledger, his family tried to focus on remembering the man they loved rather than the headlines surrounding his passing. His mother, Sally Ledger Bell, rarely gave interviews about the tragedy. But as time passed, she eventually decided to share her perspective. When she finally spoke publicly, she wanted to clear up several things. First, she said Heath was not deeply depressed, as many rumors suggested. According to her, he was someone who loved life. He enjoyed making people laugh, spending time with friends, and especially being with his daughter Matilda Ledger. She also addressed the popular idea that playing the Joker had destroyed his mental health. Sally explained that Heath actually had a great sense of humor about the role. When he spoke with family members during filming, he sounded excited and proud of the character he was creating. He even joked about how dark and crazy the Joker was. In her words, Heath was having fun with the performance. She also talked about his sleep problems. According to her, insomnia had been frustrating for him, but it was something he believed he could manage. The medications that were later found in his system had been prescribed by doctors. The tragedy, she explained, was a terrible accident, not a planned act, not a result of losing control. Just a combination of medications that unexpectedly became deadly. For Sally and the rest of the family, the most important thing was protecting Heath's memory for his daughter. Today, Matilda Ledger continues to grow up surrounded by stories about her father. Stories about the creative, funny, and passionate person he was. And even years later, Heath's work continues to reach new generations. His unforgettable performance as the Joker earned him a posthumous Academy Award, making him one of the few actors in history to receive that honor after death. But for his mother, the real legacy isn't the award. It's the memory of the boy from Perth who followed a dream all the way to Hollywood, and left behind performances the world will never forget.